Hey everybody, this is Can't Stop Dunk, and I'm here with Project 3. Alright, so for this project, you're going to be working with arrays and how to manipulate arrays and how to use them. So what I want to do for part 1 is to reverse an array of integers that I'm giving you. And as usual, there's a description up here on what to do if you need a reminder. So basically, I'm just going to summarize the description. So notice that, well, first of all, we haven't gone over methods yet, so just don't worry about this stuff over here, but you should know that what I'm giving you is an array of integers called arrayInt, right? So this is, arrayInt is something that you can actually use. So for example, I wrote this line of code here that to show you that arrayInt is an actual thing, and it's the array that I want you to reverse, right? So obviously you need another array, which is the reversed array, and that's what you're going to give back to me. So all you have to do is write your code in between here where the comments are, and what I want you to do is take every element in an arrayInt, reverse it, and store it into reverse array. That's all you have to do. So for example, if I were to do this manually one by one, I would say reverse array dot 0 equals arrayInt dot length, right? So this is how we do the first step. So in the first element in reverse array, I'm getting the last element. Sorry, there should be -1. I'm getting the last element in arrayInt, right? And then for reverse array at index 1, I want the second to last element in arrayInt, right? So this is basically what I want you to do. But obviously you shouldn't do this manually because you don't actually know how many elements there are, right? So what I want you to do is to use a for loop or some kind of loop where you don't have to do things manually. You just reverse the array and it works no matter what the size of the array is given. So that's basically what I want you to do. Now for part 2, you're going to be working with strings. Now, at least the basic idea of reversing arrays with strings and integers, they'll be the same, but strings work a little differently than primitive types because strings are objects, remember, they're not primitives. So what I did was I give you a string, like it could be any kind of sentence, it could be a gigantic paragraph, anything, right? It could even be an entire book. And what I did for you was I gave you an array of characters, right? So what I did was, remember this dot operator, sentence, right? So we have this string sentence, and then we can use the dot operator like this, dot, right? And there's a bunch of functions that you can use. So one of the functions you can use is this thing called dot to char array right here. So what that does is, now you have an array of characters. So you have an array of each letter and space and comma, quotations, anything. So any literal thing that's in the string, it's inside the array called arrayChar, right? And it's a sequence of characters, which includes the spaces, like I said, commas, punctuation, anything. So it's literally the entire thing in an array, and it's like chopped up letter by letter, right? Or character by character. So what I want you to do is, like reverse int, I want you to reverse the string, but I don't want you to reverse the entire string. What I want you to do is reverse each word, right? So you can see here in the description, I put an example. It says I walk the fox, right? And then so what it should turn into is I, and it's walk backwards, the backwards, and fox backwards. Obviously, I backwards is I because it's just one letter, so that's also backwards. So instead of reversing the entire array like you did with the integer array, what I want you to do is reverse each word. So this is going to be slightly different. So like in part 1, you write your code in between here, and what you want to do is reverse the array and then bring back the string that's been reversed. And as a quick warning signal, you should probably watch lesson 4. If you don't know anything about characters or how to manipulate strings, you should watch lesson 4 before trying part 2, or else you might be confused on how to recreate the string that's been reversed. So just watch that. If you're struggling with this part because you don't know how to work with strings and characters and stuff, just watch lesson 4 and that should help you with this part. So now we're going to move on to the last part, part 3. And what you're going to do is work with 2D arrays here. So what I want you to do is create these shapes so there's 3 shapes that I want you to create. One is basically a rectangle of stars, one is a triangle of stars, and one is like a box with stars, I guess. And it kind of looks like a fence. And I want you to create this by printing out the shapes to the console, and then you should use a 2D array to create the shapes, right? So the basic idea is use the 2D arrays, you fill the stars in the 2D arrays with at the correct spots, and then you print it out to the console so you can see the shape that you created. So you can see when I run my program, I have the console pulled up, this is what you should see here. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter how you organize it, but I want to see the shapes, right? So that's what's important. So the last thing you need to know for this project is that I'm going to be introducing something new here, and this is what we call JUnit test cases, right? So what I provided you is a file called intro project 3 test.java, and this will help you when you program the reverse strings and the reverse array parts, is that you can run this program, it'll tell you if your method of reversing things is correct. So for example, when I run my solution, all I have to do is just right click anywhere and hit run as and run it as a JUnit test case. And then if it's all green, right? If you see all green, that means your solution works as it should, right? You're reversing the array correctly, you're reversing the string correctly, right? So that's what I'm providing you here. Now, if you want to test each part one by one, so if you want to just test reverse int, you're just gonna highlight this part right here, just like this. You're gonna highlight test reverse int, right click on that, and then it'll just run that specific part, right? That's all you have to do. And if you want to run the reverse sentences thing, then you can just you highlight it like this, right click, run as JUnit test, and boom. But if you just want to run the entire thing, all test cases, then you can just right click anywhere and it will just run everything. Now if it's green, that means everything is right. But if it's not right, you'll see a red bar here, and that means there's an error within your solution. And this will help you gauge whether you're on the right track or not, or if you have the right solution or not. Because my solution is correct, right? But your solution might also be correct, even though it's a completely different method. So this is just a way for you to test if you did it right, even though you didn't do it the way I did it. So that's it for project 3. Have fun with it, try it, don't look up any solutions, just try to do it yourself and try to figure it out. There are online solutions to these, you can figure it out pretty easily, but it's good to struggle with this, and this is the fastest way you're going to learn arrays, just by struggling with it and doing it by yourself. So I'll see you next time for lesson 4.